Hi, welcome to another episode of MYD Global. I'm your host, Leanne Hackman-Carty. For those of you who were following Puerto Rico in the aftermath of Hurricane Irma, you know that a number of infrastructure systems would have been compromised. My guest today is Hector Colon de la Cruz, and he is the current president of the Puerto Rican section of the American Society of Civil Engineers. Recently, they released their first report card on Puerto Rico's infrastructure. So stay tuned as I talk to Hector about the results and provide a link for you so you can download the report. So stay tuned. Hey Hector, great to see you again. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, and you, Leanne?
Good. Thanks for taking the time to speak to us today, in particular about that report you guys recently released. But before we get started, can you just tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Hi, so I am engineer Hector Colon de la Cruz. I have been involved with the AAC for a few years now. I did civil engineering at the UPR Maya West, and hopefully with this report card, we'll change for a good side.
Yeah. Well, so Hector, recently I met you when you were actually, I think it was the day you released the final report, but it's a report card that you, the American Society of Civil Engineers in Puerto Rico, did for the infrastructure. And so can you explain a little bit about the report, what it's meant to look at, what it's meant to achieve?
Yeah, of course, I'll go very overall general. So the American Society of Civil Engineers is a nonprofit organization. They work improving the civil engineering profession, but they also work improving quality of life. And they do this by creating different type of work environments or programs, but specifically the infrastructure report card, which is a report card that basically gives an X-ray and let us know how the infrastructure is working in the United States. It's been done in 44 states, including Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. It basically consists in 8 key criteria and 16 different infrastructure categories. For our first Puerto Rico infrastructure report card, we assess only 8 different infrastructure categories.
So what can you recall offhand what the 8 are, or?
Yeah, so we have 8 key criteria that we use to analyze, or rate our infrastructure infrastructures, giving them a grade, just like a school, from A to an F. So we basically our key criteria are capacity, condition, operation and maintenance, funding, resilience, innovation, public safety, and others. For our first infrastructure report card, first Puerto Rico infrastructure report card, we graded bridges, dams, drinking water, energy, ports, roads, solid waste, and wastewater.
Okay, so that's a lot of things to look at. So overall, what were the findings? Like, was it surprising what you found, or probably what you expected?
Before I answer the questions, I can't forget to mention that you can access the document at www.infrastructurereportcard.org/Puerto Rico.
Okay, perfect. I will put that in the bottom of the video description so people can definitely access it and find out more.
Yeah, and if you go to that website, you can also find the other report cards that have been done in the States over the years. So it's not only Puerto Rico, it's consists in the United States entirely, almost entirely.
Right, so when you do this report card, do you present it to the government of Puerto Rico, or what is it meant to do?
So this report card is actually based on public data, public information when available. So mostly we work with the government agencies to help them assess the things that we need to work on with the infrastructure. So we present this report. It's a very simple findings. We write it down as a very simple format that everyone can understand, and we then introduce it to the Capitol, to the Congress of the United States, and Puerto Rico will to the Senate and the House.
Okay, and so are there recommendations? Is it just a report card? So say you looked at bridges, you gave them a grade. Did you give recommendations as to how they might increase their grade or get a better grade if they were to do certain things?
Yeah, of course. So the document, the report card overall here in Puerto Rico and United States, they give right a grade to the infrastructure, but more importantly, they give recommendations on how to raise it. Most of the time, we are on the side of the government, right? We're trying to help the government and the agencies. So we basically have 5 different recommendations for all infrastructures, and we have specific recommendations for every infrastructure. You can find them all in the document.
Okay, so where would you think that the greatest opportunities for Puerto Rico are in the future, in particular when it comes to infrastructure?
So right now, as you know, or as you may know, and if not, well, Puerto Rico is rebuilding post-Hurricane Maria. It was national disaster, basically. So our opportunity stands right now by rebuilding resiliently, by better planning, by better doing asset management, life cycle cost analysis. So part of it is that, yeah, we have to invest, but we have to invest correctly. We have to plan. So by doing this in the future, we can actually improve our quality of life and economic side and opportunities, like commercial opportunities worldwide, or at least in the Caribbean.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, because really, post-hurricane, government's looking for reports like this, specifics around you need to rebuild this bridge in this area to increase commerce, or those kinds of recommendations are definitely helpful, especially when you're trying to attract investment or funding from government, different government departments, right?
Right. So most of the time when a disaster strikes, we're not ready. We have a plan to mitigate possible outcomes, but it is important that we actually plan for a disaster and have an assessment on every possible infrastructure and outcomes. That way we're basically prepared for what's gonna happen. So by creating a multi-infrastructure long-term plan where we actually understand how the infrastructure is in Puerto Rico, what are the liabilities, and how we can work through it, we can be better prepared. By investing $1 in basically in resilience, we can save 6 in infrastructure rebuilding post national disasters.
Yeah, and that's exactly the statistic I hear all the time too. And I think what a great return on investment if you were to put $1 up front and save that 6. I hear sometimes $7 on that recovery. Is this a report that you will be doing every year, or how often will you do this kind of report?
So we try to do it every 4 years. This is the first time. So in the next 4 years, we'll try to release another report card. And we'll try to do it with more infrastructures. As I told you, we created 8 different infrastructures.
Yeah.
For the next report card, we'll try to do maybe 10 or 12.
Yeah, but at least you have a baseline now that you can measure later and use for your funding and your plan going ahead, which is great. I'm looking forward to reading the report. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up? Anything maybe that was a surprise to you, or something you really...
Yeah, so the infrastructure works both ways. It's a mutual agreement, and having a good quality of infrastructure, because 2 things. 3 things: economics, quality of life, and post a natural disaster recovery efforts will be definitely directly impacted by how infrastructure is working and how the infrastructure is prepared and how we prepare for emergency action plans, for resiliency, for global warming, so etc. So actually, infrastructure is super important. It is out there in the education and health level of importance.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think a lot of times infrastructure is such a thing that when it's there, people don't notice. It's when it's not there and not working that they really notice. So, if all of a sudden your bridge is out or your road is compromised, or, your wastewater treatment center isn't working, or your water, you don't have access to clean drinking water. I mean, those are such basic needs for people if they want to do business and stay living in an area. But, so I commend the work you're doing in this area and helping, to put Puerto Rico on a path of sustainability and really getting some of that basic infrastructure back and running and more resilient. I think that's really important. So for you, have you lived in Puerto Rico your whole life?
I actually lived in Puerto Rico my whole life, but I made some work outside of the mainland. So I know the differences and what we have to work both here in Puerto Rico and the United States. So it's very interesting to see how we can progress and how can civilization can progress and actually prepare for the worst to come if we have to prepare for something. I want to remind everyone that we're here to help them. We're here to help the government, help the people. So if you have any doubts, you can contact me through ASCE. Just call the Government Relations Office and they will direct you to me.
That's awesome. Well, and we'll leave it at that then. I will make sure and put your organization's website as well so people can get in touch with you. They can download the report. And I'm looking forward to seeing your progress over the next immediate to long term, because I know you've got some fantastic organizations there, some very committed individuals, and a beautiful country, a beautiful island. So I wish you all the best.
Yeah, thank you. So, likewise.
Thanks very much for your time, Hector.